Hello. So, match day 5 approaching. Deadline is tomorrow, 6 o'clock UK time, I think. Saturday, 6 o'clock. So, deadline's coming. I'm doing a little bit better this round. Round of 32, 103 points. First time over 100. Still seeing loads of people with like 120, 30, 100 and whatever points. But I don't know. I'm doing all right. Yeah, I'm just playing for fun. It's good getting there. Kane and Yamal to Yazabal and Bellingham was one of my decisions I made, and it's turned out basically even in the end. Luckily, almost got smashed by Kane, but Yazabal kept up with him, and Yamal blanking as well, so that hasn't stung too much. That's been all right. Kubasi instead of Kukurea was maybe madness. Basically, it wasn't just to save 0.1 million. It was also just as a bit of a punt. I thought maybe I just fancied it as a punt. You never know. But Kukurea he was just hovering around the box, getting so many chances. That could have been real bad. So if I can, I'd like to correct that, but I don't know whether I'll have the chance. Maybe. So, yeah, the team's doing all right. Mbappe cap. Got some players left to play. Some people I've noticed, you've got to have this formation thing. I've noticed some other teams get into the problem where you've got to have at least 2 midfielders playing. So, like, if you look at these blankers at the moment, O'Reilly, Bellingham, Vinny and Pulisic. If Pulisic had only got, like, 4 points and I wanted to get rid of these 3, I wouldn't actually be able to bring all my players on because you've got to have at least 2 midfielders. I've only had 1 midfield return at the moment. So that could be a problem for some people. I've seen some people that have, like, I don't know, Yamal and Saibari, and they've got like an Argentinian defender on their bench, but they're not going to be able to bring him on because you've got to have a certain number of midfielders on your team. So not much we can do about it, I don't think. It's just something to be aware of. But anyway, yeah, so doing all right. Laria came in good. That was like a little last minute punt because I just needed the money. I needed a cash cow. Stuck him in there. So he's done me well. Scouting bonus. I'm going to be getting rid of O'Reilly, Bellingham and Vinny for these 3, Munoz, Diaz and Martinez. Definitely. Like the 4 seems like a lot, not bad points return, but the qualification bonus is relatively easy to get. I mean, I've got it every player so far. It's only been like Germany have been the only upset, and maybe Morocco, Netherlands if you went for those players. So it's really a 2 and a 1. So I'm going to be bringing these three in. I'm probably going to be waiting for lineups though, which includes setting my alarm for that 2 o'clock one to get these Colombian ones, which is maybe overkill, but I don't know. It doesn't take that much. Just set the alarm, check the lineups, because your players, if they don't play any minutes, they won't get the qualification bonus. So it could be 4 versus 0 if one of these players happens to not be in the lineup, which I doubt it. But if they weren't, you'd lose 4 points. Maybe it's the height of sadness, but I just like to play the game properly. I'm going to do it, I think. Commitment, dedication. Let's do it. So yeah, I'll be checking the lineups, but those 3 will be coming in. Yeah, looking good. I don't think I'll be switching to Captain Messi. Even though he could easily get a hat-trick against Cape Verde. But Cape Verde, weren't they kept Spain to a 0-0 draw, didn't they? It's the first game, but I don't know. You never know. I think I'll stick it on Mbappe, I think. But just pleased to have Messi. I won't be bringing Martinez in either. That was something that I saw some people... The argument to not have 2 good keepers because it's a bit of a waste. It does seem like that now. Like maybe that was a bit of a waste. But I also bought them for the long run, right up until the semis and the final. So we'll have to wait and see if that's a waste, because that might come good yet. And another lesson that I think I maybe learned that I possibly didn't think about was in the round of 32. We've never had a round of 32 before. And so booking in transfers for round of 32 perhaps was okay. I just didn't want to book in any transfers because I was going to think there's always upsets. We're going to get wrecked. I don't want to book in any transfers. But given that we have to use all 4 of our transfers this round, you can't roll any. And the round of 32 is very easy to predict. Maybe I could have booked some in more for round of 32. It was only really Germany was the upset. So, yeah, in hindsight, possibly could have booked more transfers in. But I need to I don't want to overcorrect this round. So I want to go back to kind of not booking in any transfers now, because now it feels like upsets could happen at an even higher rate now, because the games are getting a bit tougher. So yeah, that was another thing I was thinking in hindsight. But anyway, I'm doing all right. Yep. So the next round of 16, we got 4 free transfers. You can get up to 4 players per team now. What do I want to do? I feel like I know. It's easy to know who I want to bring in. The tricky thing is knowing who to sell, because it's money and stuff. So here's the bracket. This is the way I've got it at the moment. I mean, Argentina and France, probably France a priority, I would say, now that their draw looks quite easy. I think France are probably priority. Get to 4 France if you can. Like if I was wildcarding right now, 4 France, 4 Argentina probably. It's tricky to know who the 4th is. If Romero starts tonight, then it might be him. But then that's like triple. I'm thinking triple Argentinian defence, which I'm not sure is absolutely necessary. But it'll be Messi, Lisandro Martinez, Emi Martinez, and Romero as the 4. Because otherwise you've got to go to like Enzo Fernandez, who is all right, maybe, but he's good for Chelsea. I don't think he's that great for Argentina, though. I've got him here somewhere. Let's just have a quick look. Where is he? There he is. Good. 3 goals, 3 assists. This isn't his XGI, but his goals and assists is 0.39 per 90. So, yeah, you could go to Enzo Fernandez. 7.5 mil, though, is like... You know, I'd almost rather... Like, I've got Pulisic for 7 million. I'd probably rather keep him, even though he's playing Belgium. He did pretty good, about the same rate, but pretty good for Chelsea, Enzo Fernandez. So, yeah, you quadruple for Argentina is Messi, a couple of defenders, then either Enzo Fernandez or Romero, probably. I'm still staying away from the fullbacks. Last game week, a lot of people were going for the fullbacks, and my conclusion was... I don't know whether I'll find them all here. I've got it all out of order. It was so you got Tagliafico and Medina. Some people were saying Medina was nailed, but as far as I could see in qualification, Tagliafico started like 14 of the qualification games and Medina started 1. So I would need some reason why Medina is now the first choice. Is he younger? Probably is a little. He's a little younger. Tagliafico's 33, but like that's not that old. I don't know. I'm not touching it. I still feel like he was injured, Tagliafico. That's why he hasn't been playing, I think. So I'm presuming he could easily just come back in at some point. But I don't know. Maybe not. And then the other side is Montiel and Molina. And that seems even closer sometimes. Like they seem like they could rotate. Molina looks like he's the first choice. But Montiel, I think he came in on game week 2, match day 2. I don't know. So I'm just not touching it. I've got this memory of fullbacks, particularly Argentinian fullbacks in, I think, Qatar World Cup, where they kept rotating all the time. Same manager, I think. So I don't think I want to touch the fullbacks if I can help it. We'll see, though. I don't know. If Medina and Molina start tonight, it's going to be tempting to just go for one of them thinking they're nailed, but I still don't know whether I would. Like, still feels risky. So anyway, the 4 from Argentina is tricky. France is just Dembele, Elise, Mbappe, and then probably Upamecano for me. Could go Saliba, could go Koundé. Again, I don't trust the fullback, so probably not Koundé, but I'd probably just go Upamecano. Maybe Saliba. But that force, I mean, some people might want to go for a Barcola, Doué. I don't think I trust that with rotation. Rabiot, I don't know. Nah, you just one defender and the 3 up front, I think, is the way to go. The next stop I would stop at is building a wildcard is probably Spain, because the bookies actually have them as like 66% chance to beat Portugal, 34%. This is just odds checker bookies odds. So that's like relatively good favourites to win that one. Not sure. I would assume it's a 50-50. Same with Brazil versus Norway. They got Brazil as 67% favourites. So if I was to trust that, Spain would go from a relatively decent game to an even easier game because their team strength, and these are from Pele, these team strengths I've been getting, just been using them now because they seem better. I've just been looking into it. They sound like they're more predictive, more recent, so up to date. And they've got Belgium and USA is even worse than Portugal. So Spain are going from a relatively good game to an even easier game in these two games, because you only really want these two games, and then the semi's just going to be hard for everyone. So I'm just looking at them in pairs. Brazil go from a relatively easy game to an even game, so they would be worse than Spain. So I'd look at France first, Argentina second, Spain third, and then Brazil fourth. Morocco have a good fixture now, although 70% is not miles better than 66 or 67. So the bookies don't put them as miles favourites above Canada. But then they go into a hard game where they'll be underdogs. So that's more like a 50-50, and that's the same as like two 50-50s, which is what England have. They're kind of 50-50 game here, and then they'll go into another 50-50. So if you look at that as a block of two, going for a Morocco player is almost the same as going for an England player, unless you're going to sell them. But I'm not sure I want to book too many transfers in this time. Yep, 50-50 game here to a worse one, so you're going to avoid this one. Same down here, Colombia, Switzerland, 50-50 going into a harder game, so you'll avoid that, I would think. So that's the rough idea. And so when it comes to like buying players, who do I want? I've got 3 Argentina, I've got 2 France, so it seems like I've got to get a French player, and it's probably Dembele, maybe Upamecano as well. I've got 3 Spain, only 1 Brazil. Wasn't really thinking about bringing more Brazilians in, but I could bring a Brazilian in. I probably won't, but I could. And then I still feel like I want Hakimi or Saibari, but given what I just said then, that's probably probably shouldn't be a priority. But Hakimi feels like a really good player to bring in. But if I think of it as a pair, it's good going into bad games straight afterwards. So, don't know. I'll probably bring him in, but we'll see. But the problem is, you've got who do I sell is the problem. So, I think the sales are probably England, Colombia. I've got Laria, which is I'd probably like to sell, but he's cheap. So if I start with Bellingham, out of these 3 midfielders, maybe Pulisic, Bellingham, Diaz. I'm going to keep Elise, and I think I want to keep Vinny, even though he's quite expensive. I think I still want to keep him. Diaz is just very good, but I may have to sell him. He's very good. And Pulisic has got the home advantage. Bellingham's got this tough game in Mexico. I might go into detail in each of the games in a minute, but I think his Bellingham at the moment would be the one, because he's more expensive as well. Dembele. Does that make sense to do that? Bellingham to Dembele? I've got 4 free transfers, so even if these are a bit luxury, they've got to be made. I'm just trying to improve the team here. So Bellingham to Dembele, but now I'm already $1 million over. This is the problem. You come quick. So if I was to do like Laria, because he's like the weak point in defence against Morocco, and bring in Hakimi, which feels pretty good. Now I'm 3.1 million over. And pretty quickly I run into a budget problem, and I find myself needing a solution. So one solution is I do Diaz down to, there's a guy called Zico, which he hasn't played yet, for Egypt. He's actually doing pretty well. He's 4.2, he's the cheapest midfielder in the game. He had a goal and assist and 2 big chances created in this New Zealand game here. And he's been getting subbed off about 76 minutes each game. If I went right down to him, if he does qualify, go right down to him, that leaves me one more transfer, 0.8 in the bank. I could probably just do one more defensive transfer to an Upamecano, something like that. And that would do it. I can't quite afford Saibari though, and I'd imagine this is harder. Well, because other people have got Bellingham, other people have got Yamal and Kane, haven't they? So actually, maybe it's easier for other people, because other people have like cheap defence already. Maybe I should have cheaped out on defence. Don't know. We've all got the same budget, but yeah. So that's one way. but it's like I didn't really want to do that. But the idea of just having one player on my team who's cheap, like I'm almost wondering whether I could, before Egypt have even played tonight, I could see if they go through. But I could just bring him in anyway, like now before Egypt have even played, and then even if he goes out, I've just got this really cheap midfielder. He'll be a does not play player, but he'll just sit on my bench, and I'll just bring him in literally just for a budget, and I'll sacrifice that spot. I could do something like that. Don't think I want to do something like that though. That feels probably wrong. Like it's probably better to just like not have Dembele, have Bellingham instead of Dembele, and just try and squeeze the money somewhere else. So that's one way, but I don't love that. Another way is Oyarzabal, which I didn't really want to get rid of because I was kind of liking Spain, and he's been doing well, Oyarzabal. But there is another cheap player called Quinones for Mexico. He's been doing quite well. I think he's been starting every game. So he's had a goal on the first game. Looks like he started the next. Another goal there in the third game. Another goal and assist in the fourth. He's quite good. He plays for a Saudi league, I think. Let's see if I can find him. And he's been getting loads of goals for the Saudi league. I don't know if he's actually been playing that much. Quinones. Got a big team. Quinones. I'm not going to be able to find it. Let me pause it. One sec. Okay, found him. Oh, lost him. There he is. He plays for that team. I can't pronounce. 33 goals and 4 assists. 1.22 goals and assists per 90 in the Saudi league. So he's been absolutely smashing at him. So yeah, I'm surprised I actually missed that. You know, regret like not noticing him. But maybe it's because his start rate wasn't that high. But he seems to be starting all these games, so he'll probably start against England. I don't know. Might have to double check that. But he's somebody else that I could bring in, and he's cheap. And in fact, when I looked at that, that seemed to work nice because that's like 3.2 mil there. So it's like I've got the exact money to do Bellingham to Dembele, Laria to Hakimi probably. I think I'm within budget when I do that. Oh no, 0.6 over. So I'd have to go for, pardon me, somebody cheap. So I think there are some cheap players, some 4.0s like Medina, but I don't really want to risk going for Medina. For Argentina, he's 4 mil. I could take a punt and then downgrade one of these to Medina. There might be some other 4 mil defenders I can go to, but that's another option. Yeah, so I've got to figure that one out. It almost makes me wonder whether I should just keep the team as it is and not mess around with it. There is a possibility that I could burn transfers. I don't have to use them all. I could just keep Oyarzabal, keep Bellingham, do Laria, upgrade him to a 4 point somebody or other. If I can get to a 4.5, I could do Kubasi to a Kukurea for the 0.1 as well. Just a little tweak or something like that. Or, I don't know. So, I don't have to break my team apart. Or maybe just bring Saibari in instead of Hakimi because Saibari's cheap. Yeah, I haven't really figured it all out yet. So this is stuff I've got to figure out. But that's the tricky stuff. Let's have a quick talk about some other stuff. See if we can kind of figure some other stuff out. So the weather. I mean, I want to start with this Mexico game, this England-Mexico game, because my sense of what's going to happen. So I've got the weather on here. So this is like the temperature on each game here. So this is like 37 degrees. That's going to be super hot. That France-Paraguay game, super hot. I'll come to England and Mexico in a minute. That one's super hot. Could be storms as well, so keep an eye on that. I don't think the storms will be enough to worry you about games being locked and postponed and then not being able to change captains, because the games are all a bit further apart now. And this one's the second game on that first day, and then you're gonna have a whole extra day until the next day. So there'd be, even if it got postponed, there'd be enough time for it to be played the next morning or the next afternoon, and it's still probably I don't think it'll be a problem. And I think its local time is relatively early, like 5 p.m, so it should have enough time to be played these games. But it's going to be super hot, that one. The Heat, you might think that would favour the Paraguayans, but I've been looking into the Heat a bit more, and heat tolerance is something that can be gained and lost quite quickly from what I'm learning with my conversations with AI, which is like, which could be nonsense, but from what it sounds as though, within just a couple of weeks, if you've been playing in very hot heat for a couple of weeks, you can build up a tolerance to it quite quickly. And if you have been playing in cooler weather for a couple of weeks, you can lose that tolerance quite quickly. And the Paraguayans have been playing over here in the West Coast, which has been quite cool. And most of their games have been relatively cool, I believe, as well. I don't think I've got it here somewhere, but it's going to take me ages to find it all. But I think most of their games have been pretty cool. Under 20, maybe a few over 20, nothing more than about 24-ish. Whereas France, they've had a couple of coolish games, but they've also had a couple of really hot games. I'm pretty sure France have had some pretty hot games. The last game they just played was 31 degrees, so that was super hot against Sweden. So they're much more used to the heat, so they actually might be more accustomed to the heat than Paraguay. Even though the Paraguayan players, most of their players play in South America, the French might be more able to deal with it. But either way, I just don't think it's going to be that much of a disadvantage for France. The heat, it's going to be a disadvantage for both of them. So I think France will be fine with that. So that's fine. And this one as well, Brazil-Norway is going to be very hot. Again, like Norway have already had some hot games as well. I think Brazil have as well. I didn't really check that, but Brazil, don't even know where they are. Probably over here somewhere. Yeah, Brazil are over here as well. Norway are over here. They've probably been about the same in terms of heat tolerance. And, there's this sense of like the Brazilian players are all Brazilian. They're used to the heat, and Norway are these like lily white Scandinavians. That was my original thought. But I'm not sure, from what I can tell, your genetic predisposition for heat tolerance is only a small part of your ability to tolerate heat. Is 95% of it apparently is like adaptable, and it changes. And most of these players from these teams, Brazil and Norway, they all just play in Europe. I started looking into the numbers a little bit here. This is like the teams that are left in it, and how many of their players, of their top 14 players who've had the most minutes so far, how many play in UEFA, Mexico, Egypt, Middle East, USA, all these different places. And most of them just all play in Europe. So Brazil, 12 of their players play in UEFA, only 2 play in South America. I think Paqueta and maybe Danilo or something like that. And then Norway, all of their players play in UEFA. So if that was the argument, they're all in the same boat. They're all tolerated to the same heat level. And then they've all moved to the east coast of America at the same time. They're all playing in the same kind of heat. So I think it'll be even. I don't think the heat will favour Brazil anymore, is my opinion. I don't think. Storms, though, in that game. So that's that. But the bookies have Brazil higher, which has surprised me a bit. I still kind of thought of that as 50-50. And there could be storms in that game. That game could affect things because the England-Mexico game is 4 hours after it. So if you're putting a captaincy on somebody in this game, a Vinny, and it does get delayed, because you've got potential extra time and penalties that could happen in that game as well. So the game itself could go on for 3 hours. If you get 1 hour of delay as well, it could affect this game. But then this game also has potential storms as well. The Azteca, the Mexico game, it didn't look like it was as likely to have storms in Mexico City. I don't know what the local time is. It's Sunday, isn't it? Yeah, so storms on Sunday now. Originally it said Saturday, now it says Sunday. So there could be storms at the Azteca. This is the New Jersey one. I guess they're playing on no, that'll be the Sunday. So yeah, probably, maybe the storms have moved a bit. Looks like the storms are coming Tuesday now, so maybe the storms have moved. Am I looking in the right place? Let me just double check that. MetLife, that's New Jersey, isn't it? I think, yeah. So maybe that one will be okay for storms, but it might be the Azteca. These ones are air conditioning, so that's all fine. No advantage there. No advantage there. Yeah, let me go on to England and Mexico. I'll talk about the others in a minute. So England, Mexico, there's this sense of like, so the Mexicans are going to have a massive advantage because of the altitude. And I think that's probably true. The only thing I would say though is that I've been looking into, because I was trying to figure out how can England prepare for altitude without actually, is it possible to acclimatise yourself to playing in high altitude without actually going into high altitude? And apparently there are a lot of ways you can do that, like on sea level. And you can use these like things. There are certain masks you can use, although I don't think they're very good. And then there are also these things called hypoxic tents or something like that, where you take the oxygen out of the environment, and so you can actually replicate playing in a environment that has thinner air and less oxygen. And so now the only source I found that from really was this, I don't know, it's this website called Brightwell, which is, I don't know, it could be total nonsense, so I haven't really confirmed that. But I do know that England they've been playing in tents that have heat and humidity, replicate heat and humidity, and they've been doing that for a couple of years to prepare for the World Cup. So they've been doing that, and they've also been using hyperbaric chambers, which are oxygen, very rich oxygen, like pure oxygen, and that's for recovery afterwards, where you kind of, I don't know how it works, but you go into these environments, get loads of oxygen, and it's good for your repairing your body and stuff and recovery. So if they're using that technology, it wouldn't surprise me if they're actually using hypoxic technology, where they're taking the oxygen out to condition themselves to play in thinner atmosphere. So it would be curious to me, it would be funny to me if England have actually prepared. I know Tuchel said in a interview that, you know, there's nothing they can do. He was saying that, you know, they're just going to have to deal with it. But he could be bluffing. He could be bluffing a little bit and just playing into this narrative. Maybe they have prepared. So that's a possibility. It might be wishful thinking though from my part. And also, if you're acclimatized to high altitude, it's not like you're good at playing at high altitude, but then you're bad at sea level. It's, from what I can tell, again from my conversations with AI, it's like, you know, could be nonsense. But if you're good at playing in high altitude, then you go to play at sea level, you will be better, if anything. But it won't be a detriment to you. So, and it's similar with heat. I think if you condition yourself to playing in hot heat, when you go and play in cooler weather, you won't be worse in cooler weather, unless it's like freezing or something maybe. But so it wouldn't harm England if anything, it would make them better, make their lung capacity better and all this kind of stuff. If they use hypoxic training, so they might be prepared for that game, is what I'm trying to say. But everything in my instinct is telling me that that's just going to be a really formidable environment. Even if they are doing some hypoxic training, will it be enough? Mexico have been there for a couple of weeks now. They've already had like 3 games, I think, in the Azteca, and the other one was in another Mexico. All the Mexico stadiums are relatively elevated. They've been training there. They're going to be very used to it, properly acclimatized. And England are just getting there 48 hours in advance. In fact, I think there was something that somebody said, you can sometimes bypass it by arriving at the stadium last minute, like within 24 hours, and then your body goes into a fight or flight response or something. But they can't even do that because FIFA say they have to come 48 hours before. So I don't know. I'm not feeling that game. England should be able to win on paper, but it's like, yeah. So I don't know. There's a glimmer of hope if they're using good technology. Maybe they are conditioned and ready for that game. But if I was wildcarding right now, I'd probably just avoid it. It's similar to this Netherlands-Morocco game. I think I'd just avoid it. So that's what I think about that game. Some of the other things. There was one other thing I looked into, which I don't know if it will make a massive difference though. But I was looking into the bounce of the balls, which is a bit random and maybe a bit pointless. But I've noticed on a couple of occasions players getting caught out by the ball bouncing too much. Saibari in the Netherlands game, I think the ball bounced really highly, and I think the Uruguay keeper against Spain when they lost 1-0, he looked like he was complaining about the ball bouncing higher than he thought. And I was wondering, like, is are the balls too bouncy or something? And apparently it's not the balls, but there are a bunch of other things that can make the balls bounce more. One is heat, because when it's hot, it's more the air in the ball is more compact apparently, and so they bounce a bit more. Altitude is another, so thinner air, it's less resistance for the ball, and so it bounces more, and shots go faster. So this is another advantage that you probably can't replicate on ground level unless they've got these massive tents that can take the oxygen out. So that's another advantage that Mexico will have. The ball's going to move slightly different. And then another thing though is the pitches. A lot of these pitches have new turf. So in England and in most of the world, a football pitch is just mud with grass on top, as you would expect. But in America, a lot of these pitches had to have their NFL pitches, and they had to have a new pitch artificially put on top. And what they used is like this silicon sand, and it's very compacted base underneath, and then put grass on top of that. But it's actually it's very kind of solid. It's not quite as soft as mud. So a bunch of the players have been complaining about it. I think France players, there was a quote, I haven't got it up here, but they were quoted as saying they felt really strange and stuff. Deschamps was saying it. Feels kind of weird to play on. And that can make the ball bounce more as well, because it's kind of more solid ground. When it's mud, it kind of absorbs some of the bounce of the ball. Anyway, but the only thing that's really interesting from an FPL point of view is that going to advantage some teams over others? And the only teams it might advantage, or I was thinking like America and Canada, basically, because they're used to these types of pitches. Everybody else plays on South America or European pitches. If you're playing in UEFA, you're going to be used to these types of pitches. But anybody that plays in America or Canada, or Saudi Arabia as well, the Middle East, the Saudi Pro League, or Qatar, places like this, because it's so hot there, they have quite a lot of artificial turf that they play on as well. So these types of players might be used to that type of ground. It's probably a very small thing. It doesn't really matter that much. But then see, the other thing as well is like America, 11 of their players in the American team play for UEFA anyway, in their first 14. There's only 3 players that actually play in the American League. And Canada as well, I think 12 of their players play in Europe. So are they even going to be that used to it? I mean, maybe they will be for their national team if they come back home. They're probably going to be a little bit more used to it. But that was just something interesting, an aside that I thought was interesting, that maybe... See, the bookers have got America slight favourites above Belgium. So you could, so I've got like Pulisic. Maybe I'll keep him. Maybe I'll keep Pulisic. He's not bad. So that's interesting, but I don't know about Canada. But then maybe that puts me off going for 2 Moroccans instead of 1. Just going for 1 instead of 2. Maybe they'll be used to that pitch, because that's a new pitch. That'll be an artificial one, and so will this one. They had a new pitch down. Not all of them are. The Azteca isn't. That's going to be normal turf. And this Philadelphia one over here, France versus Paraguay, is just normal muddy soil. But all the rest of them will be artificial, compacted. Yeah. Although this one's going to be really hot, so the ball will be bouncy there as well. Anyway, so that was just an interesting aside. I mean, I've had too much time in my hands this week because I couldn't figure out what to do, because like there's with our teams, it's like you don't know who to buy and who to sell until all the games are finished, so you can kind of like figure out who you actually want. So yeah, you can see I've had too much time in my hands. Anyway, so plans for this week though. Yeah, I'm in the same pickle really. It hasn't really helped. So it's Dembele. Can I get him in for Bellingham? Hakimi. I haven't actually figured it out. It would have been nice if I'd figured it out so I can make a decent video. But that's where I'm at. Hakimi. I'm not going to be able to get all these players in, am I? I'm going to need a cheap player. There's Manzambi as well. I've spoken about him, haven't I? Manzambi, he's another cheap player, but I don't know if he's cheap enough. I don't think he's cheap enough for me to get all the players I really want to get. So I think he's probably going to end up boiling down to Quinones or that Zico guy. And it's probably, I mean, unless if Zico gets knocked out tonight, then probably won't be him. If he doesn't get knocked out, I think it's probably going to have to be Quinones. But I don't like the idea of getting rid of Oyarzabal. Quinones against England. I mean, it's not bad. I quite fancy it. I could get rid of O'Reilly. Zico would then go into Argentina. So that's not great. So Manzambi's got Colombia, which isn't bad. But he's probably not cheap enough. And then, what am I doing? Because I've also got to think about next week as well. If I've got Quinones and he goes out, I'm then going to need another cash cow. So should I be trying to find cash cows from the teams that are likely to go through? So that otherwise I'm going to be constantly switching cash cows all the time. Which is, maybe that's why I should just go for a Zico and just leave him on the bench. Maybe even Laria, just leave him on the bench. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. One last thing I was just going to mention as well is yellow cards. I don't think this makes a huge amount of difference, but these are the people on yellow cards in match day 4. So from match day 4, 5 and 6, if you get 2 yellow cards in those 3 games, you'll miss the next game where after you've had your 2 yellow cards. I don't think like Jude Bellingham's on a yellow. Casemiro, Danilo, I've heard some people talk about. Saliba I was looking at for Canada at one point, Noosa for Norway. I don't think any of these players are going to get dropped though. I think at this stage, because you want to qualify for the next round, you don't want to drop your player and then not even qualify. Like, it's too risky. So I think most of these players will still play anyway, but just something to be aware of maybe. One other player I've heard some people talk about is Sanchez for Mexico. He's a right back and he's been playing most of the games, but I don't think I would avoid him. He's cheap. He's like 4 million, I think, but I would avoid him because there's another player called Reyes who I believe is first choice, and he started the first game and then got injured, and Sanchez has been taking his place, but Reyes got 10 minutes off the bench in the last game, so he's probably imminently going to get his place back at any moment. So I would avoid Sanchez for Mexico. Just a little tip. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it there. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to have to figure out. I just need a cash cow. It's probably going to be Quinones, to be honest. He has about a Quinones because that just feels like the best option I've got. O'Reilly to Upamecano maybe. Then Bellingham to Dembele. Laria to Hakimi. That feels quite good. And basically I'm just betting against England then, which is not very patriotic of me. But that's... and I actually kind of feel like England probably will win. Like, the bookies having it as 55-45 is kind of what I think is probably how I would have it. But that might just be the best way that it fits with my team. Anyway, yep, okay, I'm going to stop talking. Thanks for listening. See you later. Bye-bye.